Law number 14 is the law of buy-in. And the law of buy-in says that people buy into the leader, then the vision. People buy into the leader and then the vision. When I do leadership conferences like this, I have people come up to me and they'll ask me this question. Pastors will say, John, I've got this vision, I've got this dream. What do you think? Do you think the people will grab it? Businessmen will come up to me and business ladies and they'll say, hey, John, here's what I'd really like to see my company accomplish. And they'll lay out this wonderful goal. They'll lay out this wonderful mission and vision. And they'll say, what do you think? Do you think my team will grab hold of it? And whenever they ask me that question, I always give them the same answer. I can answer that question if you answer one for me. Well, what is it? Has your team bought into you? If they have bought into you, they'll buy into your vision. If they have not bought into you, they won't buy into your vision. You see, the first person you sell is yourself. Your first mission is not to get the vision over to the people. Your first mission is to get yourself over to the people. And the moment that they buy into you, the moment they believe in you, the moment they relate and connect with you, at that moment, they'll relate, connect, and buy into your vision. And here's why. Every message is filtered through the messengers. That's why the proverb writer said, the mark of a good leader is loyal followers, and leadership is nothing without a loyal following. Amen to that. Now, this is the law of the buy-in. So let me walk you through some things. When the followers don't like the leader or the vision, they look for another leader. Make sense? They say, well, let's just get another leader. Now, when the followers don't like the leader, but they like the vision, they look for another leader. You can see you are becoming replaceable here. Now, when the followers like the leader but not the vision, they change the vision. But when the followers like the leader and the vision, they accomplish the vision. Now, one of my favorite subjects is the one I'm going to talk about now, and that is dream casting, vision casting. So let me make another statement, then let's just talk for a while. You see, here's the way this works. The leader finds the dream, and then the people. And the people find the leader, and then the dream. This is a great principle. What leaders have in common is leaders have a dream and they have a vision. You go up to a leader, and you know what a leader will say? A leader will look at you and say, let me tell you something. Here's where I'm going. Here's what I want to accomplish. This is what I want to get done. Let me share with you my dream. Let me share with you what my mission is. See, that's what a leader does. That's the insides of a leader. It's going to come out. All leaders have a dream. Now, I didn't say that everybody that has a dream is a leader. There are some people, the vision that they've got isn't because they're a leader. It's because they had too much buttermilk and onions last night before they went to bed. So just because you have a dream doesn't mean that you're a leader, but if you are a leader, you will have a dream. Now, here's what I know about leaders. They have this cause. They have this mission. They have this passion. They have this desire. They have this dream. I mean, it consumes them. It possesses them. And what they do is they grab this dream and they start going that way. And because they know where they're going, and because they have a passion for where they're going, and because they're committed to where they're going, it begins to be attractive to other people. And other people start coming around them and saying, where are you going? Well, I'm going to go here. Let me tell you why. And they'll start selling the dream, and pretty soon they've got people on the train, and pretty soon they've got a crowd going, and they've got a group going toward a direction. That's what a leader does. That's the function of a leader. In fact, here's the way this works. The gift that a leader gives the people is the dream. That's the gift you give people. The gift that the leader gives the people is a dream. The gift that the people give the leader is the fulfillment of that dream. And the two of them work together. As a leader, I stand up in front of you and I say, let me share with you the dream, let me share with you the vision, let me share with you where I'm going. And I begin to do that. And that's what I do for you. And by the way, it's the only thing I can do for you. Can I tell you something? Followers can't get the vision without you. They can't get the dream without you. The only way that they're ever going to get the dream is if you as a leader give it to them. Followers don't have dreams and visions. Leaders do. The only way that a follower gets them is when a leader gives it to them. And now all of a sudden, the follower can go to a whole another level that they never could go before, because now they have a dream, they have a mission, they have a passion, they have a purpose. That's what leaders give to them. Now, the result is also true. Any leader that has a dream knows that the dream can't be accomplished by himself or herself. So they have to share the dream and enlist people to get into the dream. Why? Very simple. They have to do that because the dream can only be accomplished with a group of people. Remember, if you're a self-made man, you haven't made much. So what they do is they gather the people together, share the dream, pass the dream, teach the dream. And then they take people and they go together. Now, here's where the great breakdown is in the dream. The breakdown is not the fact that you lack a good vision or lack a good dream. Every once in a while, I'll have somebody say something like, well, you know, John, if you have a great dream or you have a great vision, the money will come. What have you been smoking? I know all kind of people who have great dreams that never had them financed because they didn't understand leadership. There have been many great dreams die, not because they were poor dreams, but because they didn't understand leadership. And here's where the breakdown is. What we try to do is we try to sell the dream and the vision without selling ourselves first. The first step of reaching the dream potential is selling yourself to the people. They have got to basically say, I want to take that trip, and if I'm going to take that trip, I want to take it with that person. If I don't sell myself, they'll basically say, well, I would like to take the trip, but I don't want to take it with Maxwell. In fact, I'd like to find somebody else that's going on that trip. I'd like to sign up and enlist, but I don't want to go with him. And think about it for a moment. Aren't there a lot of people that you just don't want to go on the trip with? Think about it. Aren't there a whole lot of people that any more than a hi and how are you? That's about all you want with those folks. All right, some of you are too spiritual and godly or act like that's never happened. But as for me, there's a whole bunch of people. I don't mind a brief stop in a conversation, but I don't want to make it an all-day affair. The only people I want to take the trip with are people that I like. That's why I tell leaders, people won't go along with you if they can't get along with you. They've got to get along with you. Now, the moment that you like me and the moment you get along with me, guess what? You say, hey, where are you going, John? I want to take the trip with you. But you see, that's why all great dreams and visions begin, hang on now, with relationships. Before you tell them where you're going, connect with them. Remember the law we taught? This is an incredible law, the law of connection. What do? You touch a heart, then you ask for a hand. That's the law of buy-in. The law of buy-in is a cousin to the law of connecting. The law of buy-in, what does it say? The law of buy-in says they got to buy into you as a leader, and then they'll buy into the dream. So what's that mean? Well, what it means is, because I understand this law, it has always helped me in casting vision. Let me explain. First of all, because I've led only, except for the Enjoy group, all I've ever led is volunteer organizations. Okay. So because I led volunteer organizations where people don't have to follow, this law of buy-in is essential to know. Now, if you got a paycheck or you got some kind of a club, then they're going to go with you where they want to go with you or not. But in most of our worlds, that isn't the way it is. So we have to basically make a connection and a relationship. All of my churches have been congregational, which means they voted on everything, including me. In other words, when you did a building program, they voted on it. If you're going to have to borrow money, they voted on it. They voted on me as the pastor, okay? In other words, they were congregational. Now, on all the ballot votes that I've ever had taken in my 25 years of pastoring, and I don't know how many ballot votes that is, but that's probably a couple hundred. Of all the ballot votes I've ever had taken on any issue in any church at any time, the lowest vote that I've ever had ballot-wise for up to a $35 million building program, the lowest ballot vote that we've ever had under my leadership was a 92% vote. You say, John, how can you pull that off? I understand the law of buy-in. I never ask for the decision until they have bought in to the leader. You got to sell yourself first. Let me give you an example. In 1981, I went to San Diego, California to pastor Skyline Wesleyan Church, of which I was following the founding pastor. 27 years of wonderful ministry. Here comes the new kid on. But here, get this perspective. He had been there for 27 years, had planted that church, built it up to over 1,000. When I came, I was 33 years old. You getting the picture? Almost before I was, he did. Okay. Now, I have all kind of dreams for this church. I'm a young man, and I've got a lot of dreams. But I know that I cannot move them in the vision until they buy into me. So what do? Do I go there and start talking about what we're going to do, and here's our mission statement, and here's our plans? No, don't do any of that stuff. I just start connecting with the people. I start figuring out who the influencers are. I start spending an inordinate amount of time with the influencers, getting buy-in and connecting with them. And slowly, it began to happen. Now, I went there in July of 1981. Every Thanksgiving, they had a Thanksgiving morning service where the people would come together and they would just, it was a people service. They would stand up and they would testify to the greatness of God, and it was kind of a nice deal. Okay. I came in July of 1981, and month by month I developed relationships. A year and 4 months later, on this Thanksgiving morning, get the picture. I've been there from July of 81 to Thanksgiving of 82. Okay? We're having this praise and prayer type of a service where we have mics all over the auditorium. There are probably, 800 or 900 people, and they're getting up and they're talking about what God has done for them and how thankful they are. It's a kind of an uplifting service. And all of a sudden, one of the lay people in the church, Roy Conrad, the lay leader of the church, who had been in the church since almost the beginning, truly one of the solid influencers of that congregation. I can still remember this. He stood up on the 4th row, and he said, Pastor, I just want to say that I'm thankful that you've come to this church. Now, all of a sudden it got quiet because 14 months into my ministry, this is the first time somebody really stood up and began to talk about, I'm glad you're here. You understand, I followed the founding pastor. And now the major influence, the kind of father figure, is on his feet. And he's saying, Pastor, I just want you to know that the greatest 14 months I think the church has ever had has been the 14 months you've been here. And the tears began to flow as he began to talk about how things were beginning to change and how the church was beginning to grow and how he loved seeing people come to Christ. And I watched him for 5 minutes Kind of, it was a little bit embarrassing to me because he just kept saying, we just want you to know that you're making a difference here, and we can feel it, and we're so glad you're our pastor. And when he finished with just tears flowing, the whole church got up and they clapped and they cheered, and I just wept. And that day, about noon, when I got in the car with Margaret and we were driving home for our Thanksgiving meal, I looked at her and I said, Margaret, today's the day they bought into me. Today's the day. And here's what I know. Now I can move them forward. Now I can talk about relocation, which I knew from the day I arrived. When I went to the search committee before I was ever the pastor and I looked where they were, I realized immediately that they were going to have to relocate that church. In fact, I asked the search committee, I said, why are you still located here? You're in trouble. And they said, well, this is where we thought we should be here. And it was a good time. I'm not criticizing where they were at that time, but I just knew I was going to have to relocate them. I knew they didn't have enough land. I knew that the dreams. I had all kind of dreams for that church, but I never told them about the dreams. I never told them about the vision. What I had to do was connect with them. I had to love them, laugh with them, cry with them, pray with them, remember their names, talk to their kids, pet their dogs. But on Thanksgiving morning, 1982, I got buy-in. And the next week, I started casting vision. Oh, I hope you understand this principle. Pastors go to churches and business guys, they start things up and they here's what we're going to do and here's what we're going to be. And I want to say, time out. Got a question to ask you. These people that you're wanting to go on the train, can I ask you a question? Do you know what their name is? Have you walked slowly through the crowd? Have you had some kind of what I call bonding experience with them? Do you know you got to have a bonding experience? Have you had that moment where you connected to where they're yours and you're theirs and they know it's one for all and all for one? Have you had that Three Musketeers experience in your life? You see, if people don't follow your dream, it's not the size of the dream that will keep them from following it. It's because you haven't developed the right size of buy-in. Here's the way this works. If they don't buy into you, they won't go after a small dream. If they buy into you, they'll go after a big dream. I want to say one more thing about the dream. Then we're done. This is going to encourage you because I could all day talk nothing but vision casting and dreaming because I just believe this is so essential. A lot of times when we have the dream, and I'm going to assume now we've had the buy-in, okay? We've got the buy-in and we've got the dream. And so a lot of times the dream is really big, bigger than us. Amen? Do you connect with this? In fact, if the dream that you have isn't bigger than you, you don't even have to listen to this. You can play tic-tac-toe on your notes, okay? But I'm just going to assume that most of us in the room, the dream's bigger than us. Now here's what happens. God says, okay, John, I want you to go up I want you to climb the hill. I want you to get up there to the lectern, okay? Now what happens is that as I start to go, whenever God gives you the dream, always remember this. He does not give you the resources at the same time he gives you the dream. Please understand this. How many people they'll say to me, you know what, I got this dream, I got this vision, but we don't have the manpower. Well, we don't have the money. And they're you know what they're doing? They're hanging around waiting. They're over there and they're sitting way over here and they're basically saying, God, here's the way. You know what, God, that's a great dream. And as soon as you give me the money, I'm going to go after that sucker. Well, it's a dream, but I got to have more people than, 17. You give me the people and I'll go after the dream. See, that's not part of the deal. This isn't the way you work with God. You see, when God gives you the dream or the vision, he doesn't ask you anything except one thing. That's obedience. In other words, start walking. And guess what happens? As you walk, every step of the way, he'll give you the resources. And so many times we'll get about halfway there and we'll say, oh my goodness, I don't know. I'm halfway there and I don't have half the resources yet. I don't have half the money. I don't have half the people. And so you know what we'll do? Again, we'll say, you know what? I better stay here until I get more. You don't get more by staying. You get more by moving. Obedience unlocks the resources, not a resting place. Don't have a picnic and dinner on the ground waiting for the resources. Don't have a committee meeting waiting on the resources. Just be obedient and keep walking. By the way, here's the way this works. The same buy-in you need from the people to pursue the dream God wants from you. Oh, that was good. Man, I had a great thought like that in 1983, and it felt the same way. It just felt good. Man, every 15 years I get a thought, and boy, it's good. You see, God wants the same buy-in from you and me that we want from the people. That's why when God says, here's the dream, he doesn't want a negotiating session. He wants obedience. He says, don't you buy into me? Don't you think I'm able? Don't you think the one who begins the work can complete the work? Don't you think I'm able to do exceeding abundantly more than you ever ask or think? If God be for us, who can be against us? Or the Maxwell translation says, if God be for us, everybody else might as well be. So start walking. Now here's what's wonderful. If you'll just do what he says to do, and you'll just keep walking towards the dream, here's what's beautiful. When you get to where you need to be, the resources will be there. But God never gives his resources out ahead of time. He never gives it to you on the front end. Because this walk is a faith walk. It's a trust walk. It's an obedience walk. And by the way, why would he want to give you? You see, you say, well, if I'm going to, this is a 10 dream, and if I'm going to have a 10 dream, I got to have some 10 people. Can I ask you a question? First of all, if you don't have a 10 dream, he's not going to give you any 10 people. Why would he give somebody that has a 2 dream a 10 person? He's not going to waste his resources on you. People say, well, God, when you want to send me somebody that can financially help me? Well, probably when you're going to do something that you financially have a great need. If the biggest thing you're going to do next year is paint your restrooms, he isn't going to send a 10 person. You don't send 10s to paint restrooms. You may send a painter, you may send a plumber, but you don't send 10s. But here's what's wonderful. You just keep walking, you just keep obeying, you keep doing what you're supposed to be doing. You buy into God like you want your people to buy into you. And the moment you get right here to where you need those resources, God will say, I've been waiting for you. Here they are. Most people never realize the resources of God because they never pursue the dream that God has for them. Wow. We have not only because we ask not, we have not because we obey not. The law of the buy-in. When your people buy into you, they'll buy into the dream. And when you and I buy into God, that dream will become a reality.